Hi everybody, it's Oksana, and today I'm going to show you how to make this pendant here. So if you want to see, just keep watching. This is a stone that I'm using. It's a little bit less than an inch, somewhere between half an inch and an inch probably. And then I have a really long piece of wire here that is 25 inches of square copper 20 gauge dead soft wire. So I know that I inserted a little clip in my video. I'm just bending this in half, finding the middle here. And I'm going to put a little angle in there with my pliers. So you saw kind of the preview of the pendant that we're making, but at this point I don't know how this is going to turn out. So it's going to be a nice surprise for me. This is a really fun little challenge to try and make a pendant using one piece of wire. Now I'm going to use thinner wire just to like connect things and wrap the bail together, but in terms of the actual base thicker wire, I'm just going to use one piece of wire. And I've tried this kind of challenge with myself a few times, and it's always been really fun, and these always turn out so different. So I bent this in half. I made a little point, and I'm going to kind of put my stone in here and try to shape the top part here around my stone, just kind of loosely. So anyway, that's why you need such a long piece of wire, because I don't really know where this is going, and this is my only wire, so I want it to be long enough. Okay, so up here I left a little bit of a space. This is basically like a little frame, right, for a stone, little diamond shaped frame. Now I'm grabbing my 22 gauge half round wire, and I'm just going to do what I always do for bales, which is wrap it around a whole bunch of times just to connect these wires together. And ooh, it's falling. And to make my bail. Now another option is you could twist these two wires together if you wanted to, if you don't want to use a connecting wire. And I'm just holding the wire with this finger. I'm kind of guiding it. It's flat side down, half round side up. If you've never worked with half round wire before, it can kind of get twisted on you, and you want it to be positioned properly where the flat side stays down and the rounded side stays up. So that's why it's easier for me to just kind of twist it and then guide it here with my finger so it doesn't get like twisted around and it doesn't start facing the wrong side up. Now once you're done with that and you're satisfied with the height of your bail, I don't know, maybe like a taller bail or a shorter bail, you're going to cut those little wire ends and just kind of press down on the whole thing just to get it nice and flat. And so the wire ends are here on the back. Just gonna fix them so they're all hidden here. That's going to be the back, this is going to be the front, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hold this and I'm going to shape my bail, and you can use some round nose pliers if you want. That is totally up to you. And then before I close this bail up too much, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to put it through the middle. This way it doesn't get too bent up, I mean. If you do it, if you kind of start doing it as you're bending your bail. Okay, now you can just kind of close up your bail a little more. Oops, sorry. I hit my camera with my wires. So here we go. Looks like this. Now we're just going to separate those wires out. So our next goal here is to trap the stone with our wires. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have them each wire is going to go down, and it's going to kind of crisscross here like this. And now to get the wires to actually stay, this part's a little tricky. We're going to hold this still because we don't want to bend this out of shape. So we're going to hold this really still with one hand, and then with the other hand we're going to wrap the wire around. And once this gets to be a really small little loop, it's much easier to use your pliers to kind of tie in and close up that loop like that. And I'm just going to press this way. All right, and now the same thing. Make sure it's all symmetrical. And again, hold really tight, because if you move this out of place, it's going to make everything kind of discombobulated. All right, now I'm just going to squish it a little. Squish this little loop. Make it nice and tight. Everything is, I think, looking symmetrical. I will check in 1 second. All right. Let's see here. I think this needs to just move ever so slightly down. A little more. Oh, there we go. I think that might be too much now. Okay, I'm going to press this down just to try and get it to be tight so it doesn't move around anymore. Okay, so I think that's symmetrical. Let's grab our stone and put it back how we had it, which is like this. So now these wires here that are on the back, we're gonna kind of crisscross them here on the back. I'll show you in 1 second. I know it's hard to see, my fingers are covering it up, but if I let go, my stone's gonna fall. Okay, like this. Crisscross them here in the back, and I know that they tend to get a little bent out of shape when we were doing the wrapping here, so you can kind of straighten it up if you want to. So now we're going to go back to the front here, and here's the wires here in the front. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab one wire at a time, and I'm going to put it through the front. Again, I'm holding everything tight. I'm holding my stone so it doesn't move out of place, and I'm using my pliers to make that a nice tight little wrap. Okay, so then same thing here, right through this big portion and make a nice little loop. Now before you make your loop really tight, make sure that it's in the same location and the same position, that it's all symmetrical, and then you can kind of squish it tight. Okay, so here's what it looks like. And what you want to do periodically with this style of pendant is just check to see how your stone is doing. Like if I push it, it might pop out the front. It's a little loose up here because nothing's holding this little tip. Here in the back, it seems to be pretty good. It seems to be pretty secure. I'm just gonna bend these little wires just slightly, like this. But yeah, basically what we're aiming for is making our stone really nice and secure so it is not going to pop out of there. Now, one little trick, if your wires are starting to be like mine, and see, they're square wires, but they're kind of getting a little twisted here as I wrap them, so they're looking a little wonky. What I like to do is I'm going to take a little section of just like 1.5 inches, and I'm going to twist. And that gives it a nice twisted effect, and it helps get rid of this little unevenness that formed. It kind of hides it and covers it up so the wires look nice again. And just doing the same thing on the other side. So what I want to do now is I want to bring this wire so that it's facing the front. So you can see here it comes from the back, it wraps around through here, and then here it is up top here. So I'm just going to press it down, just like basically keep it going. See what I did there? Just kind of keep it going. It's nice to do this with your pliers so you get a nice tight little press there. So now here in the front, I want to trap my little teardrop, especially the tip of it. So I'm going to crisscross these, and I'm going to bring them down like that, hopefully really trapping my stone in there so it can't get out. And now I'm bringing these down, and I'm bending, and I'm putting this wire, actually let me just bend it on both sides first to make sure that it's nice and symmetrical. Okay, that looks nice and symmetrical. The teardrop has shifted a little bit, do you see? It's a little easier to work with oval shapes, but I wanted to do a teardrop. So we are gonna kind of lock that in place a little more so it doesn't move around. So first things first, bringing these wires to the back here. And we're going to do one wire at a time. So I'm just going to start with this one on my right. So it's going down, down, down. Here it is in the back. So press it tight, you know, so it's not like this. Just press it down. Here it is coming down the back. And now we're going to have it go through this hole right here. And this is one of those designs that is like really open to interpretation. Like you don't have to do it exactly like this. You could have made it go through a different hole and make it have a different crisscross somewhere else, you know. So just because I'm doing it this way doesn't mean that you need to really keep it exactly like this. And this is why every time I make this type of design it looks different, just because, you know, I don't remember exactly what I did last time, and so I just end up doing all kinds of different things. So that was wire number 1, and now we're doing the next wire here, putting it through this hole, pulling it out the back, and I'm trying to keep it up, like close to my stone, up by my stone. Okay, so let's just make sure I'm tightening the loop up a little, and I'm making sure that it's even. Okay, so this wire seems to be just slightly looser. I'm gonna see if I can just tighten it up a little bit. Let's see if that did the trick. Okay, that did the trick. It seems a little tighter now. And this wire just needs to be a little further down. Just trying to make it nice and symmetrical. tightening up this little loop so it matches the other side. All right, I think that looks symmetrical. So now, actually, ironically, I was thinking of how I'm gonna trap the tip of this teardrop, but it stopped moving it around. I think because I did this on the bottom here, it kind of made it stop wobbling around in there. Well, I had already planned something, so I'm going to go ahead and carry that out, even though I technically don't need to anymore. So I'm going to bring these wires up, and let me explain to you my thought process here. So if you have something like a teardrop, and you have a loose area up here where the tip of the teardrop can kind of move from side to side up here, what you want to do is you want to kind of put something in this space, like a wire on either side, to kind of trap in the tip of your teardrop so it can just wobble around less. So that's what I was thinking of doing with these. So here's my wires coming up the back. I'm just going to crisscross them here on the back, like this. And so here on the front, I'm going to put this wire through, let me show you with my pliers, through this gap here to try and just really make sure that the tip of my teardrop doesn't have wiggle room. And then to make it a little prettier than just this wire going straight down, I'm going to bend it with my pliers a little bit this way to give it that half rounded kind of shape. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side here. Okay. And then it's easier for me if I hold it upside down. Okay, now I'm just kind of bending it. So I'm just making that half round shape, and then let me adjust my veil. And now I'm going to go to the back, and I just have tiny bits of wire left, so I'm just going to finish it off. So let me show you what I'm going to do here. If you see this wire going this way, and so here's my wire that I want to finish, so I'm just going to hold this, and I'm going to bend this upwards like that, and then I'm going to trim it and leave myself just a tiny little wire end. Actually, I might need to cut that shorter. We'll see. And then I'm just taking that, and I'm just going to squishing it down. So the wire end is tucked away, basically made a little loop, and I close the loop up around this wire. So same thing here. And just gonna trim that. So I did a good job using up most of that 25 inches of wire. And if your stone is bigger, you'll need more wire. Alright, so the wire ends are finished. And from the front, here's what that is looking like. So now I'm going to try and make these a little more even, a little more symmetrical. Let's see. Just kind of squishing them down. Okay, so I think that looks more or less symmetrical. I want to try and tighten this wire up. See how there's like a gap with both of them? So you can leave it like it is. And that is a nice look. But then if you kind of follow this wire to the back, then you take it, if you want to tighten it up like me, and you just kind of give it a little bend and you press it down up against the stone. And then same thing with the other wire. That'll help tighten it up a little bit because we're just basically like pushing the wire down. So that did tighten it up. As you can see, there's barely any gap left. A little more gap on this one. There we go. Okay, so I like that better. And finishing touches here. If you wanted to, you can add little beads to this. So I am going to go ahead and do that. It's totally optional and it's just for looks, but I have some 2mm copper beads and the same wire that I used on the bail, the half round 22 gauge wire. And I'm going to add a bead up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my wire ends, so through here, oops, there we go, it's a tight squeeze, and I am putting the other end through this other hole, and I am just arranging my beads so it's right there, kind of in between those two wires. So then what we have to do is we just have to wrap these wires around something here on the back. So I'm just going to do this one around this wire just to attach it, make sure that bead is tight on there, and just kind of pull to make sure that we're not leaving wiggle room for that bead to slide around on there. And I am wrapping it now just because the way that it was coming out, that it's flat side up, not round side up. I don't know if you can tell. Looks a little different. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just a slightly different look. There we go. I see it. I see that wire end. Got it. All right. So just going to do that a few times. Alright, and that is done. And then there's kind of a big space on the bottom. Okay, so that's done. Our bead is good. Here on the bottom, it's kind of a big gap here. So if you wanted to add a bigger bead or a few little beads, you could. That's totally an option. I think I'm just going to leave that alone. I think I'm happy with just my one little bead. I'm just doing any kind of finishing touches, making sure everything is symmetrical, making sure my bail is not twisting out of place here. Okay, so that is it. Here is one last close look at all the details here, in case there was something you're wondering about or that you missed. Oh, and the wires in the back, see how a couple of them are not really like laying tightly up against the back? You can just press them down with your pliers. There we go. So there's just, they're all flatter against the back. Alright, so that is it. That is the completed pendant.